Not yet. Okay.
This one, all right, anyways, I guess we can start. Okay, welcome everyone, and those out on YouTube and Zoom, wherever we are. First up on our agenda is an approval of the minutes of the March meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second? Any corrections, etc.? Nope. All right,
Very good.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. All right, moving on to old business. Library seminars. We do know those.
Charlie, do you want to give the update on that, or?
Let me unmute here. Yes. So everything is moving along. We have them all arranged. Liz, you're gonna bring some toters for the was it June 7th that we're going to be doing that? And then the March 23rd for the geothermal is on, and they started publicizing that, so that's on. I still need to confirm with Bonnie Agnesani about a description for the program on June 7th, which is going to be, or June 17th, I think it is, going to be on food scarcity in Niles Township. So there's more information coming on that, but that's already scheduled, and that's going to be at the Niles Township offices on Lincoln Avenue. So those are the three programs coming up. And the native plants was a big success. Yeah, that was good.
Was that actually, like, kind of would say sold out? Was that actually full? I think it was.
The Rademacher room was pretty full. Yeah, they had to bring in extra chairs, and then there were some people online too. So, and it was a well-received program, and people were really good. There were a lot of genuine interest and people with who wanted to proceed with this. So this was great. It was a very good program.
Thank you.
Who's presenting at the, is it you and Max at the one on June 6th and 11th?
Yeah, and we're gonna be doing the bucket giveaway. That's where we're gonna launch that program for the. We're gonna be giving away 4-gallon buckets. We've talked about this before, but we finally got our stickers in. They were on kind of back order. We got those put on today. We had some light duty staff working on those, and so they're pretty much ready to go. We just wanted to have some sort of event to launch them at, so we thought that was a good one to roll
So
out.
Liz, I had a quick question about, I didn't have a chance to follow up with Meredith Gioia about the publicity for this, but I assume that's going to be in the newsletters coming out and the like. Is that correct, or do I need to check with her?
Looking at the library, I don't think it even opened until next week, so we don't want to promote it too soon. We want to have the registration.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'll follow up with her on the Niles Township thing with Bonnie, but I'll assume the other two are good.
Okay.
Cool.
June 6th at the library.
The June 7th with starring Elizabeth Zimmerman as our star public works person will be in the library, and that'll be in the that's in the Business and Community Center up on the second floor. The May 23rd with the geothermal is also going to be on the second floor in the Business and Community Center, or whatever they call it up there. But both of those, I think, will also be on Zoom. They're going to be hybrid, so there'll be an opportunity to be virtual with those as well.
You're only calling me the star presenter because Max isn't here at the meeting tonight, I think. So
Everybody's coming to see you, Liz. Nobody's coming to see Max.
Get a line out the door.
All right. So I'm gonna ask you if you want to- Reading?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you to Jim and Charlie who came to help out, and Mike was there. Yeah, Michael was there too. Who's in the I do had a lot going on that day. So
I don't
yeah,
remember it either.
we do. So it was great. I thought the traffic control flowed better. We did some setup on Saturday. We put public works staff in the key traffic positions. So we made some changes to the traffic flow, which I think helped. We took in a lot of material again. So we had 19,700 some pounds of document shredding. We had, I think like 22, I thought I had it written on this paper. I think 22,000 pounds of electronics. We had to get a third trailer, so it was above and beyond what we were expecting to get that day. 360 pounds of fire extinguishers, 300 pounds of lithium batteries. That's a big one that we like to collect that helps prevent fires in our refuse trucks, recycling trucks, facilities, and 300 pounds of holiday lights. We had 1,068 vehicles go through the electronics and document destruction parking lot, and another we don't know if it's another, but 627 vehicles went through the other recycling stations. That's a big number for that other parking lot. So that's, all those other stations are very popular. I know the textile recycling, even though we didn't get weights from them for that event, they had to go get a second truck. I believe some other vendors had to shut down because they were full. So it was a good event. Do you have any further comments on it?
No, it just seemed, yeah, like you said, busy as compared to the previous year. It just seemed busier. Maybe there's a weather thing too. But, yeah, I kind of am curious how these numbers compare to the previous year.
Yeah, about the same. The number of vehicles for electronics and paper shredding was down just a little bit, but I think that's to be expected because last year was the first year after COVID. So I think we had some people that sort of saved up some material, and last year was like a slightly bigger year, but it just really, really successful. Took in a lot of material, had good weather. So.
Any appetite for doing it trust me?
So our, part of the reason we can do this is Swank sponsors the electronics and the.
That was a popular question.
But with that said,
Asking that.
we don't really need to because we can go to any Swank community event. So we should, and we do put that messaging out to our residents. So if you missed the spring greening event, all of the Skokie residents are invited to participate in any of the Swank collection events. So, Evanston has a big one later in summer and so forth. So we'll get messaging out on that too.
Yeah, like I said, a lot of people were asking that as they came through. Like, when else do you do this during the year?
Yeah. So we can definitely.
That'd be good to publicize.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it also might at least mean that people can kind of spread it out a little too. Not that I personally tend to have a whole lot that amasses, but I think that way people can also go with maybe smaller amounts rather than having it sort of filled up in their house and stuff. So.
And I know, Morton Grove, for example, had reached out to us. They're thinking about starting an event, and they would be part of that Swank group, and Skokie residents would be able to go there as well. So hopefully more communities start it up.
It seems like the other ones that do it though, it's not nearly as broad as they'll have the recycling events for paper, electronics, and
Right. I've been to the one up in Glenview, and it's paper and electronics. It was convenient. I mean, it was fine, but yeah, I think this is probably the most comprehensive of all of them that I can think of.
And in some way, we have had discussions in some ways if the two events together are the right thing to do, if it brings in too much traffic, if it should be, two separate. So we have had discussions in the past, but with the location that we have at Westfield now, it works. I think it works pretty well. And as people learn the route, I mean, that's always the thing. We switched from the high school to Westfield, so it was like several years of people kind of learning new traffic patterns, and it's been nice to be at the same place for a few years.
Yeah, there wasn't much, but Liz, I mentioned this in the email. There seemed to be some confusion if you had multiple things, like if you had electronics and paper and some other things, where to go. I don't know if that was a prevalent problem. We just had a few people coming through the paper saying, well, what do I do with my other stuff? And I said, well, you had to route around again. So, yeah.
Yeah. And we do the lessons learned afterwards. And so if you have any further comments, feel free to email me. I did give a pretty good list to the park district. They're really the ones.
Yeah, I don't, what's hard for me to know is whether those people just missed something and everybody else figured it out, or whether that was an actual problem.
Right, like when they come in, is there a big signage that says
Right.
electronics this way, paint and, textiles that way, Like
Yeah.
Charlie said, we wouldn't know because we're kind of at the end, like,
Right.
Yeah,
we don't know where they went wrong.
we did notice that we really needed a sign at the entrance of paper and recycling, but what I would prefer to do is try to direct questions for the people on the way out, because it was really clogging up traffic when they stopped in that first line. I mean, clogging up traffic like up to Old Orchard.
Yeah.
So we're trying to, we think about those things, and we're trying how can we, because after you do paper, there's always maybe like 30 seconds between the next car. So it's a good opportunity then to tell them how to get to the next station. So we do review this and we try to make it better. I think this year was a little better traffic flow than last year, and hopefully next year we'll get a little bit better.
Okay, next up, Plan Commission's drive-through agenda item.
I was just curious, did anybody go to the meeting?
So Liz, I could not make the meeting and I tried to follow online, but it was not streamed or broadcast.
Okay.
So I don't know what actually happened.
Okay. Just for a brief update, so Johanna Knighton, the Community Development Director, she's been working with her team to develop some policy changes for drive-throughs. As a reminder, it's not legal to just outright ban them. And so she came up with a memo. Hopefully everybody had a chance to read it. I think it's very thorough and thoughtful and comes up with some just ways to mitigate and decrease the impacts. I did send the minutes from the last meeting with that discussion, and Charlie spent a lot of time doing another kind of 2-pager. I thought all of Charlie's ideas were, thoughtful and good as well. And the Planning Commission did get all of those comments before they voted on the discussion, but I am not sure what happened after that. So I'll try to give this group an update on what happened at that meeting.
Yeah,
So you got a chance to go. Did you? I know you emailed thanking me that we didn't know about the meeting.
Are you talking to me, Liz?
Lisa had emailed me with some interest, but
Oh, yeah.
I'm confused about you. You emailed me a link to a meeting and I watched it. They were talking about drive-through and Charlie was there. What was that meeting?
there is the link I sent you was probably because the meeting hadn't happened yet. That was the page where you could find the next meeting. You know what I mean? It wasn't, the meeting hadn't happened yet, so you had emailed me in between. So I emailed you like the landing page for the.
Did I watch an old meeting?
I
They were
think so.
talking about drive-through. Like when Charlie was saying he wasn't, when we said he wasn't there, I was like, he was there. I just watched it. What? I
guess
just used the
no.
link that you sent
So there
me.
was a prior meeting where they had the initial conversation, and then there was a follow-up meeting where they were going to adopt Johanna's recommendations.
Okay, so I watched old meeting, I guess.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course, for me, time is elastic, so I tend to be,
I actually thought that it would be online also, like that it would be streamed perhaps, and that you could at least watch that way, but I guess that didn't happen for the meeting, this one that we're talking about.
right. For Thursday's meeting, it was not available either on cable or on YouTube.
And it could just be they had some technology issues, so I'll follow up on that.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
I
Okay,
thought,
so then-
generally, I thought Johanna's recommendations were good. I mean, obviously, I have my point of view, but I think she's approaching it in a very constructive way.
So Liz, if you find that the meeting is online, can you send the link out to us?
Yeah. Mhm.
Thank you.
Use the current link.
I will also say, not to get too off track here, but I did, since we were discussing the whole issue of drive-through establishments, I did find an email, everybody, there's an interesting news item that I found, so I don't know if you saw that, but about electric car charging at some of these fast food establishments, and that they're introducing that as a feature. So as a little aside, I'm just saying, while we're on the topic of drive-throughs,
When was that last meeting?
Their meeting?
The planning commission.
Yes.
The time-
Thursday?
It's on
Yeah,
YouTube, the
that's
20th
Thursday.
meeting.
It is, yeah, okay. It might have, so Charlie, they're saying, Michael's saying it's up now, that meeting, so maybe they just posted it or something.
Okay, I'll take a look at it.
But I'll send it to the group.
All right, next one. Compost, week, which is coming up very soon,
Yeah, compost week is, I think it starts May
3rd through 7th.
Yeah, okay, 3rd through 7th.
Depending on. There's a weird
Yeah,
sequence.
so we have actually done kind of a soft opening of 3 more sites for toter drop-offs. Hamlin Park, which is that soccer park sort of just north of Howard and Hamlin there. Niles Township has been awesome, and they gave us some space over at the Niles Township government offices. And then Central Park up in the Skevinston area. And so these are all, kind of pilot programs. If any site isn't working, we can always look at different locations or, what have you, but we're going to be advertising those on Tuesday. And the program in general has been just taking off. If you've seen the new Skokie in March, the numbers came in, and last March of 2022, we were composting 5.4 tons. And this March, we doubled that with 10.8 tons of the compost program. And so I couldn't really ask for a better start. Again, we have a few contamination issues here and there. We have a few locations that will get full once in a while, but the programs, we've been able to manage it, and the program's going just really smoothly. So
I got a question with that. It's
Mhm.
like what we're getting is this food waste that can be reduced in the first place before we get it, or is it just the amount of people that are giving us stuff that is no longer?
yeah, of course, I think the
That's-
food waste messaging
Yeah,
obviously
that's
needs
the
to be a part of this, but I don't want to, I think we need to just take a minute and recognize that we're
Oh, I
having some
know.
success here, and just be encouraging to the residents that are participating. And then I think the next step obviously is to start utilizing this as people are paying attention to talk about food waste. And we do put food waste messaging out there in e-news and so forth on a regular basis. It's just, again, you don't reach everybody through e-news, so.
Oh, I was just thinking, just for the
Yeah.
data and everything too, is it just,
It's really hard to
Like,
tell
what
how
would
much
the
it's
waste be like?
reducing
Yeah.
from our landfill tonnage, because even though 10.8 tons is awesome, we're doing 1,700 tons of landfill waste. And so it's a start, but it's a really good start. And, based on participation, I was weighing my own compost, Max is weighing his compost. We're trying to figure out maybe how many people have been using it. And so I would estimate that we've got a couple hundred people using it.
No, it was just a question, not like our total waste,
Yeah.
just was like, okay, we have that, and then if we did food waste reduction, what would that be, and will we still see an increase of participation? Just, my brain's
I-
throwing out the data.
I really do think that once people start
Yeah.
composting, they start thinking about food waste. I just think it's all, it's a similar thing, I think, but,
So
yeah.
originally, I thought we talked about placing these at places where they can be monitored, like at facilities, but with two of them being at parks.
And that's why
How does that-
we're a little leery on, how this is gonna go. And so it's definitely the next locations are what we would consider a very, a pilot program. So we'll see how they go.
Does
We,
somebody go there and monitor them, or is it just?
so park staff is still, at the parks, so they're taking they're keeping an eye on them. We still send staff over Fridays. And then the collection days are Mondays and Thursdays. And so they're probably being monitored about 4 out of the 7 days a week. Somebody's got eyes on those. But you're right. I mean, we'll see how they go at the parks.
I mean, is there a summer camp up at that park too? Because I mean, that more people.
Not just yet.
I think the program's been a little bit more successful faster than what we had anticipated. And so finding new locations, you kind of run out of these perfect locations of
What
facilities.
about schools? They're not.
So the thing I worried about was schools. I initially thought, yes, let's partner with the schools. And then I thought traffic flow and, people getting in there to dump their compost and kind of getting in the snarl of the traffic. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Maybe it's not a big deal, but the school traffic flow has, bad traffic twice a day.
Yeah, depending on the school, some don't have. It's not even traffic flow, it's more like just a traffic
Swarm.
glob, for lack of a less appropriate word.
Oh,
I talked to some parents at Highland, and they're interested in having one by us, because it's, that whole area, that very far north doesn't have anything.
Okay.
And not that Devonshire is going to that far, but they're not, if they're not right on your way, or like you're gonna run there for a minute, you're less likely to participate. And that's what helped me with it.
Okay.
So it's, there's no pickup lane there. There's the park side street where parents park, but it could probably be figured out to put it somewhere, even maybe like, well, the front of the school wouldn't be ideal because there's parking lot there that's usually full during the day, but somewhere.
Okay. I mean, we can
Be
talk,
explored.
if they have a school has a site that they think it works well with their traffic and everything, we're
I
certainly
haven't talked
open.
to school yet. I just
Oh.
talked to some other
Yeah.
But I can talk to them.
And I'll just give you an example with traffic being an issue is we were planning on launching a site over at Fire Station. I was thinking the number is 17 over on Central Park. And we were all ready to do it. The fire chief and everybody was on board. And I went to go mark the Julie locates for the sign, and they were having a training at their tower. The entire parking lot was completely full, and rigs are parked on the street. And then I went there and I thought, and I had to ask him, like, which way do your rigs pull out? Do they pull out of this driveway or this way? And I just thought, if I don't know, and I worked here for 15 years, I was really worried about residents pulling in and parking in front of where their rigs pull out, or and there's trainings constantly. And so, sometimes we evaluate a site and it doesn't work out in the end. But.
It would be nice to have it at schools and start with, education.
Yeah.
Kids and the whole.
Yeah, when talking about, I don't know about other schools, but in our district, talking about possibly composting in the schools, so it would be a good way to bridge that.
Yeah, I mean, if we can work it out, I think we're really for that. That's just my only concern, is the traffic and somebody getting kind of caught up in their compost in the middle of the traffic. And
Yeah.
so just working with the schools to find a good location, maybe. Lisa?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the postcard that was sent out about what can be composted and what goes in where was excellent. So whoever designed that, I really like it. I put it up in my kitchen so everybody can see it. I think,
It's on our refrigerator too. Yes, it was an excellent piece.
yeah, thank you for doing that. I don't know who did it, but thanks.
Thanks for saying that, because the first calls that we got on it were not great. But you know, people are not, well, not everybody is just on board with the, you know, the changes, and so they were confused that the messaging had 4 toters. So we had some calls asking if they're gonna get 4 toters delivered to their house. So you might see some clarification messaging and e-news and things like that, so.
White ones?
Yeah. Thank you for that. I'm gonna pass it on to Meredith.
Yes, it was excellent.
That was excellent.
By the way, was there any thought of putting that on the recycle bin?
We have recycling information on the recycling.
I know, but I
Yeah.
mean, this was more this had more information.
You think it would go on the recycling or the tote?
I would think it'd go on refuse
The refuse
because
toter?
everything technically can go on refuse other than certain exceptions like hazardous waste. But that's like the first step or the catch-all. So if you're going to your recycling, some of the things you on that list cannot go in recycling, but everything else can go in the refuse. So if you that's like the first point of where people would dump everything. So
And I'm just
first
thinking
pull
that
back.
because that's the one that get contaminated is the recycling. That's what I was thinking about that.
Yeah, well, there is something like that on there, and then on the refuse, because then we're getting at food waste also.
I'm wondering if it's better though, like actually sending it, like I like the postcard, you know, because
No, there's.
I don't-
Yeah,
I don't pay attention when I throw out the trash.
no,
Like, I
as a
just, like,
as a supplement.
I don't, like, I'm like, it's like a 30, you know what I mean? Like they just dump and go, like, yeah. Couldn't even
My
tell
life
you
was
what's.
so exciting, I have to
I
think
know
about
that.
it.
Kind of recycling.
Right.
Go out there to read.
But
That's
you-
precise.
We haven't gotten a ton of calls on that postcard, and so I'm hoping this is a bellwether for, you know, the rollout next week. It's been going pretty well. We increased phone coverage on our phones a little bit. Utilizing our technology more to handle the calls better, but we have not been overwhelmed by calls, and those went out to everyone. So.
I'll say, Liz, that I think the heads up has been pretty good. I mean, I've been noticing the communication that's gone out, and I think it's been consistent and it's been prevalent. You know, there's a real presence about it. So I think it's been pretty good. We'll see what happens when it actually happens, but I think the village has done a pretty good job with this.
I also like that when you go to the village's website, it
Yeah,
pops
that's that
up
thing. Yeah.
before you can go anywhere.
Yeah, that was, I have to give credit to John Lockerbie. That was his idea to put up there, and they were able to make that happen. And
Make people swipe this away.
Yeah, no, it's great. Yeah.
When you go to the website to find out what's the number for someone to make an angry phone call, so you see that first. Oh, that's why.
How's the staff feeling? Are they ready for, because obviously it's changed, right? Like their routes are
Yeah.
changing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we hope that the community gives us a little bit of patience, because not only is the structure changing, but we've created new routes, and so
Yeah.
we've got teams of people learning new routes, and when you really learn the village, there just are little quirky corners and nooks and you know, just interesting scenarios where you think that somebody might have alley flexion, but it's really curved and things like that. So I'm sure the first week is gonna be something, and then I think, you know, our crews are gonna pick up pretty quickly.
But they're okay, like they feel okay with it?
Yeah, yeah, I mean, you know, we're gonna see, you know, how the tonnage, that's really, they're really gonna be picking up the same amount of refuse, and so some of the things we're interested in seeing how it goes is, for example, when we go to Swank, now we're gonna be hitting traffic jams more than what we were in the past, just based on timing and things like that. So, but we'll figure it out, you know, I mean, we'll figure it out, and we're gonna learn like when to dump the trucks and when not to get in these traffic jams at Swank and, you know, things like that, so.
I think Andrew has a comment.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say, well, two things. I do think, I don't know, like I'm not intimately familiar with, the general feeling at the schools here, but I do think that that could be a potential solution also, I think, for the composting drop off. I don't know, at least from my perspective, as long as it can be done in a sort of safe and secure way that doesn't impede the normal operation at the school and all, obviously that's a factor. But yeah, the other thing is, especially because I was kind of curious myself to get some handle on, not to digress too much, but one of the things that I was thinking of doing is trying to find a way of getting some sort of baseline assessment for what the curriculum looks like and that sort of thing at the schools and what green initiatives they have at the schools and all of that. So this could certainly fall under green initiatives programs and sort of be a way of the school district being involved in that kind of thing, yet another means of it. But the other thing is too, I was just saying, I don't know if the new resident packets are still going out in print. But I know they used to be, and we had back in 2019, actually, discussion that the refuse and recycling, the little brochure that I came up with to kind of try and put a lot of that information all in one place. That should be part of the new resident packet. And I know there's a sort of a digital version on the website as well. So I don't know if there is a link to that or not. I think there's supposed to be. And that also touches on, I was just gonna say, that also mentions the upcoming change to the refuse to once weekly from twice weekly pickup. So it's also on our webpage and stuff. So that's another source for that information, I guess. There's that along with the composting and everything. So hopefully if people don't see it, it's kind of hard to miss now that there's the pop-up on the homepage, which is definitely a good idea, but that's also another place that people can find some information about the transition to once weekly refuse collection.
Thanks, Andrew.
One other question I had, at one of the budget hearings, there was talk about videos for composting and recycling.
Oh, I'll follow up on that, yeah.
Who would be
Meredith would do the videos, yeah, I can. The reason I slightly avoid those, because I don't want to be on one, so I have to.
You got it, TikTok next.
You get enough
Is, uh,
attention at the library.
I'm the star.
So is anybody here, yeah, you're on one already, is anybody here interested in being in a video while we're talking about it?
Hard pass.
We're composting, Bob was on.
That's true. He's famous.
Sounds like Bob's
I got
going up again.
I have no problem.
Okay. We have a volunteer.
I can maybe volunteer my kids.
That sounds
Somebody,
fun.
was it Alex?
Any
Somebody
movie stars
said-
in Zoom land that would be interested in being on a composting video?
Liz, we do backyard composting. I don't know if that would be
Oh,
something.
okay, okay,
Pretty good.
yeah.
We just throw our banana peels in the neighbor's lawn.
Yeah, we just throw them in the backyard. That's our
Right.
backyard.
That's the best for earthworms.
Okay, next up, leaf blower regional report.
Yes, so I want to start out with some other positive news first. So anybody saw the, like some of the messaging that went out last week? Our village crews have basically completely transitioned to electric landscape equipment. And it's been really successful. Really, the only small portion that we, you might hear a chainsaw running if we're taking down a really big tree, or if there's a storm or something like that. Because if the wood chips as they get wet, sometimes the electric landscape equipment doesn't do as well with that type of work. But other than that, we're fully electric. The crews are honestly very excited about it, which is great. And they're just excited that it's quiet. I mean, what a life change, right? To be working with that equipment every day and enjoy that. And secondly,
So you fully transitioned.
yeah,
Yeah, because I saw the social media post and it said, we're transitioning.
yeah, I mean, at the
Basically,
time I wrote that, we were having a little bit of hard time getting the chargers. So the equipment was readily available, and then the batteries were readily available, and then we didn't get the chargers in, but we now have the chargers. And Russo, the company that we purchased the equipment from, they're really, I guess we're the first one that's fully electric, and so
Yeah.
they're asking us how it's going, they're interested in it for sales, and so it's just been a good rollout. We've had our Gravely mower, which is the riding mower, for an entire year now. It's great. I think our crews love it more than the gas
Yeah, I
riding
mean, I
mower.
actually need to talk with them again because.
Yeah.
Does it,
Preserves.
do they hold the charge to do a day's work like the gas?
Yeah, I mean, when the batteries are new, and that's the thing that we're waiting on, when you get a new cell phone or something, the batteries are awesome right away. And then, so, there's gonna be, we're just gonna have to learn on how long these batteries last. But right now with fresh batteries, everything's working, everything's going really well. Our operation is definitely different than a private landscape, company that works 12-hour days. So we have a much larger opportunity to charge, we're essentially working, by the time they even have drive time to and from the shop, we're looking at like a 7-hour day or something like that. That's a lot different than these really long days and 6-day-a-week operations of the private. So we just want to be mindful that that's a hard transition for everybody to make. And then the other thing you'll see us doing is rolling out more of those zero emissions robot mowers. We had a contractor approach us last year that has been our contractor, Langton Group, and they wanted to roll them out in a few locations. They worked great, and so we're going to be putting them on Channel Park and some other locations this year. Really, the only thing that's stopping us from doing a much larger scale rollout is you need an electricity source, and the solar chargers are expensive. So, but that's another just wonderful program. So, yeah. So with that said, we also had staff meet and talk about the leaf blower regional report. We have a code committee that talks about any code changes that we're talking about. So we're generally, just kind of following that regional report at this time, which is essentially limiting the leaf blower use to the seasons that you really need them. And so, that spring and fall season. Again, there just needs to be time for the technology to catch up a little bit, for companies to buy this equipment, and that sort of thing. So it's just, we're looking at it as kind of a start. To be honest with you, I mean, there are some things on the enforcement end that are, concerning to staff. For example, during the week, the property inspectors would be kind of responsible for noise calls, but on the weekend, police is responsible, and obviously it's low on the hierarchy of their calls. And so that can create frustration when somebody thinks that their leaf blower is like the crisis of their day and there's other things going on for the police department. So it just creates, some conflicts. And so we're talking through those types of scenarios in our code committee. And, some other communities I know allow taking a photo and things like that. And we're just trying to work with legal and,
Yes, please let us know, because
yeah.
I had a crew that was 45 minutes early one time, and it was the day I got to sleep in, and I was, 4 hours of sleep, I was not happy. So I went out there and talked to them, it almost became an altercation to it, because the guy was just being an ass. I wouldn't do anything, but he was like just trying to get, and then we had crews like, our neighbors were using them, and all the emissions were coming right into our house too and everything. I mean, it was like, my house smelled like two-stroke. And it's just like, they were never ending. I mean, like, I almost wanted to do a sound meter just to see how bad it was, because it's like, I could not, it was just absolutely obnoxious to it, because I don't even know what they're blowing anymore. It's like an hour in a house. So
that regional
it's
report,
ridiculous.
would the battery powered equipment be allowed, or what is
it
the ban?
Mhm.
Right. So the ban is still battery powered equipment, and battery powered equipment is truly quieter equipment, but it is a little different. It's got this kind of higher,
pitch.
like higher pitched
Doesn't-
sound to
Doesn't
it.
carry as much though.
Right, and so, and it also doesn't get through windows and doors as much. And so, you know,
And moving air does make it sound just for the fun.
Yeah, I'm just trying to clarify what equipment is being banned. So it sounds like all equipment is being banned during certain times of the year.
I don't know.
And-
gas powered, so gas powered equipment would be banned except for spring and fall cleanups. That's the discussion we're having. We're not finalizing that yet. That's where the report is leading us and the data is leading us.
Question about that transition to electric for the equipment. I assume you guys keep the old equipment then for some time period?
Yeah, we're not aware of any programs that are really recycling that right now. And we also are, it's just good for us to have on hand in case we have a tree storm. You know, that sort of thing, backup if the, yeah, right, the electric doesn't work for some reason. So, but we'll keep that on hand, you know, for the foreseeable future until we're comfortable with the transition.
So one thing to keep in mind about the leaf blower, so there are a couple of issues. There are three issues as I see it. One is obviously the emissions from the gas. Two is the noise. But the third is all they do is just redistribute debris. They just blow debris all over the place. So I'm glad we're making some progress, but I think we ought to keep those three things in mind in terms of what we're trying to accomplish with a leaf blower policy.
Well, I mean, it's not just the emissions from the gas, it's also the particulates in the air that are polluting. And there's also an environmental impact, which is like, you know, the micro ecosystem that exists.
Yeah, I mean, it is pretty destructive to have all that.
So, yeah, like Liz, what's the, is it like the gas powered or is it just banning them entirely? Like what's the?
Well, you know, we liked the regional report. There's a lot of thought that went in there. It was a balanced committee, so it not only included environmentalists, but it also included the landscape community and how they can survive and do their work. And so that report essentially is recommending at this point to start with limiting those gas powered leaf blowers. What I think that does is it puts a little pinch. It just, you know, like a little bit of a, like, you know, like, oh yeah, we're really going to do this for kind of a heads up for community members and landscapers to start purchasing electric. Our sustainability plan actually wants a code change for, you know, what it recommends is a code change for all gas powered equipment, not just leaf blowers. But, you know, when you start thinking of just the problems that we had, the village had, and getting our one crew set up, it's just not really feasible to roll that out in the community at this time. But, you know, doing one code change alerts the community that other things are coming. I think it's just the first step of the process.
Right. And then enforcement wise, I mean, I know in Evanston, like it's been, like that's been just.
Yeah, I think it's an important step just to normalizing the practice, right? And I think that's where we are now, to normalize some other practices.
And I would say just make it an easy way so like people know how to report violations.
Yeah, and the violation thing I think is tricky too, because at this time we're looking at allowing electric leaf blowers, you know, during all of the days. And so are people gonna know that higher pitched leaf blower running is not a gas power? And so there, you know, there's gonna be a little bit of
Well,
that.
I'm just saying like before 8 AM, you know, just, you know, when you do the early violations, I think it's like you completely do that, because I'm sure that people who aren't quite sure either. And, you know, and crews can be aggressive in times too and everything. And thankfully that this one time they actually stop, but there's other times that it does not stop. So, you know, tell them what the ordinance is.
We're also looking at requiring the landscape companies to register and license themselves. And so that would provide us essentially with an email list to push messaging out when we change the code and to send reminders out on the noise ordinance and things like that. So
There's definitely equity in consideration.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the landscapers in Skokie are not the companies like you see in Wilmette or in Evanston.
It would be more of a registration, so it's not like they're required to have any.
Right, but if you're assuming that they have someone who does communications for them, if it's like guy and his son.
Yeah,
They have a phone.
maybe a cell phone.
Right. Right,
Yeah.
They have to have something because their vehicles are registered, so.
But anytime you're asking, you're asking people to, make themselves known to local government, like that can be a barrier, right? Like even if it seems simple to us, like that can feel like a barrier. to people.
Well, I'm sure half the time they're gonna push back too, because they don't want to get fined either.
Lisa, I see your hands up.
Oops. Forgive me if I missed this, but who is considered in violation, the landscaper or the homeowner?
Well, and that's something we have to work out. We were talking about that a little bit at the last meeting. I believe in Evanston, it's the homeowner, if the owner.
I
Yeah,
think it should be the homeowner personally, because they're the ones who need to know the laws of their own. I do think people need to know the laws of where they're working, but I think the burden should be on the homeowner to monitor what their landscaper is doing on their property. I think they should be the ones responsible. If I'm just putting in my 2 cents, I think they're the ones who are the violators.
And I would imagine that would also make the whole communications component simplify it a little bit, because you're
Yeah.
literally just communicating this new regulation or the new regulations to residents, the homeowners, and they're responsible for making it clear to whatever service they may elect to use. So.
yeah, thank you. And then just for the timeline, we would never roll this out in the middle of the season. So we would be looking at, like after the season, so. Any other questions? It was the most popular post I've ever seen on Facebook. So. Not that we went viral with like 30 people, but it's popular.
Just to, I guess, what is the village's preference of what the restriction would look like? At least initially.
Yeah, I mean, the village likes to, I think villages and cities in the area, they're all looking at each other. They kind of like these regulations and things to be similar in each community. It just makes it easier for everybody. I mean, the landscapers are going back and forth to the different communities. And so, right now they're really advocating for this to go to board and to, for there to be a code change. But at the end of the day, I just don't think we can get too drastic with it, because the availability of technology is not
Just apply right now,
widespread.
I mean,
Yeah.
like you said, the chargers and stuff, the charging,
Yeah.
like for what, doing the solar stuff, the transformer, so that, and
Mhm.
not the production, but
And again,
hopefully.
yeah. And then again, with the companies, we bring in the equity issue, and you've got a family just trying to make it go and feed their family. And so for the village to buy something, it might be one battery to make it through the 8-hour day. And for, somebody that's working a 12-hour day, 6 days a week, they might have to have triple the amount of
The thing is,
batteries.
they might be
I think that draft policy addresses that by phasing the implementation, allowing the transition to happen. So.
There's no way to manufacture this equipment, cell mitigation,
They do,
modifications.
well, for the electrics.
No.
They do have mufflers on, that's the problem. They already have mufflers. I mean, you can make
Not the ones
some,
in my neighborhood.
no, they all are, you don't think you notice, but it's a slow square thing, it is an actual muffler on. They all have, one. That's the problem, they're still at 100 decibels or
They're
more
working
with a muffler.
at work.
Trust me, I was trying to do a CAD design or something, get attached to it and stuff, and I couldn't figure out how to do it.
I'll just say this, I'll throw this in. I think a rake is a more effective way to move leaves than a leaf blower. I mean, seriously, I rake my leaves and I watch people with leaf blowers, and they spend a lot of time blowing these leaves, making a lot of noise, blowing all this stuff all over the place. And it is not a significantly more amount of time for me to just rake the leaves.
There's probably some carpal tunnel issues for people.
Just as an aside, it
Sometimes lower tech is better.
Well, they're also
Seriously.
blowing, because when they're blowing it, like somebody said, they're blowing it into the street. They're
Or
not
blowing
blowing
into
it,
the neighbors.
right, they're blowing it off
it's just
that
blowing
property.
all over the place.
But
Exactly.
if you're touching your leaves, you're trying to collect them, so you're more concerned with where they go.
So Evanston, going back to this conversation, Evanston does not find the homeowner. That was something that,
Oh, okay.
there was an iteration of this ban that was going to go after the property owner versus, because that was also considered to be more equitable. But, yeah, it is not,
Okay.
that
Thanks for
did not make
clarifying.
it, that
Okay.
did not make it to the final.
Okay.
Because I mean, in some ways, like, you know,
I guess my point is that, similar with the, remember with the grass clippings and just leaving them on there rather than collecting them. I think we tend to over technologize things. We want these lawns to sort of be pristine. And so we have this mechanized approach to it. And what we end up doing is, we end up having this for all of the 4 hours after the leaf blowers have been through, the lawn is immaculate. And I watch these guys in the neighbor's lawn, they're really good. They know what they're doing. They're very good at it. And the lawns are beautiful. And the next day a wind comes up and blows everything back and you would never know it would happen. So, at some point we just need to stop and say, what are we trying to accomplish here? And what's the best approach to do that?
Right, do you have anything else on that? Okay, let's move on to new business then.
Go for it.
The sustainability coordinator was approved by the village board.
Thank you, well.
It's in the budget, I think it was $87,000 for the coordinator, that's much later.
is that salary or salary? and benefits?
I don't know.
That's what was budgeted.
That number is just thick on it.
Yeah.
Do you know what the plan is as far as timeline for hiring?
Yeah, soon. So as soon as, hopefully in May, I don't know if it's gonna be like the first week of May, but the goal is to get the posting out in May. I brought the budget item here that talks about it. It says, let's see, this position will assist with the implementation of the 189 detailed action items in the environmental sustainability plan and will provide oversight of the village's sustainability initiatives. Other duties will include research, data collection, metric development and monitoring, policy review, grant research, and assisting staff and community partner education and engagement initiatives that promote environmental sustainability. So that's it in a nutshell.
Is this person where she was in?
I'm sure they'll attend. I think, what I've been told is we just kind of need to see who this person is and what their strengths are. And we're gonna, develop that as we can see what their, what makes sense. It'll kind of develop as we go.
One thing to look at too is that, probably for next year and stuff too, is like doing an intern at times or someone on their own, because every time they try to do a single person, there's a lot that just needs to be done. Even with the board, so it's like, and we can't get everything done that we need to get done.
Preaching to the choir.
Oh, I know. I understand. I'm just saying, some.
Baby steps.
Did this person report to you?
No, it's gonna be in the manager's office, which is where it really needs to be. We really need it to be, at that
Separate
top of
from
the
that.
umbrella that oversees the village. Yeah. Cool. So.
I was gonna say definitely good that it seems to be proceeding then, because I know that I think more and more communities are certainly making that sort of investment, I think, in that position. And I think it is, as I think most people would agree, an investment in the future, in the community, in the people. So it's a good thing that the position is being committed to.
So Liz, I just want to say thank you to you and to Max and to Ralph. I was the one who stood up in front of the board, and made that pitch, so I'm personally very good.
Yeah, I also wanted to make a point of explicitly thanking everybody for making sure that was in the budget. The staff and the trustees and the village manager for putting that in there. I think it's really important and I think it's a great step. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I mean, I would just say it back. I mean, just in my 3 years here, I think this commission has really pushed the village. And so, you know, ultimately you were the start of it. So I think great job.
What's actually, and I will also add that it's good to see that the village, including the trustees, have seen, like, you know, have accepted this plan, but have also accepted, like, you know, what comes along with it, right? Like actually operationalizing the implementation of it, right? Not just saying like, oh.
They're not greenwashing it and everything.
We'll get done what we can get done,
Yeah.
right? But actually understanding that there has to be systemic change.
And I also appreciated having that report sent out of the progress thus far. It's great. Very good.
So you get the credit.
But there's a lot in the budget also that covers the things from the plan. It's not just a plan, an unfunded plan. It's really.
Yeah, you know, now I feel that now that you mentioned that, I probably should have brought those line items, but Jenny's point is well taken. If you did go through the budget, I have a book right in front of me to take you out to see it, but there's a lot of money was devoted to the budget this year. It was listed as I think $600,000 for new initiatives. And so, you know, we were essentially asked by the manager's office, you know, to come up with, you know, each staff lead on the sectors and to tell them what we needed. And to my knowledge, nothing was cut. It was a back and forth of, you know, what we needed to implement those first stage plans, and they supported that.
That's great.
Actually, the totals also, I think, are in that, the second to last page in the memo that went out. I did notice here, there's, under the cross-cutting thing, there is some information about the totals and all of that.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
The last page.
That's very first, 670. Excellent segue, Andrew. So who put this together? Oh, this was Max and okay. This very thorough accomplishments of what's happened so far under the plan. It's pretty impressive.
I got tired just reading.
I know. It wasn't actually 10 pages because the last 4 pages were blank. So that's,
Yeah, but still.
it keeps going. It was 8.5. But yeah, there was a lot of things that, you know, we're not necessarily aware of because there's so much going on that, yeah.
You know what, I guess our goal would be is for each now commission liaison to take a look at their specific section, kind of learn what's going on, learn where you can jump in, learn whether you want to jump into something that's already going on or you want to start something new. It just gives you that information now.
I do want to mention an update on the buildings and energy section, item BE13. So it says a sub-team has been established consisting of 2 members of SEAC and 1 from Go Green Skokie. The team met in February to begin developing a Skokie Energy Challenge. So we've met actually since then. We've created, I say we, Alex Franz created a draft award form for a village-wide Skokie Energy Efficiency Challenge.
We fixed the typos.
And Mike was focused on the typos.
It was a team effort.
And so I'm going to share that with you guys and hopefully we can have a discussion next time. We're looking for feedback And I think Alex just wants the whole commission to say, yay or nay, but hopefully yay. And so he can move forward with it. So I'll be sharing that with you guys.
Yeah.
Cover next month.
I did have a question on something from my sector. There was somewhere.
Are you talking
Oh,
waste? or-
Yes, yes,
Okay.
sir. Staff met with a recycling professional, the Sustainable Environmental Advisory Commission. Would that be-
Would be Bob, yeah, so we had.
So
a
what
discussion,
was
sorry.
that?
Bob linked me, we actually invited Evanston to a company that does some, and I just learned that in the talk, it's not technically styrofoam, it's foam recycling. And it's.
Trademark.
Yeah, and it seems really promising. With that said, Mount Prospect is ahead of us in the process, and they're gonna be rolling it out like next week or something. Maybe it was last week. And so I talked to her at a SWANK meeting, and she said, just give us just give us some time to get our feet on the ground, and then we're gonna be invited over there to see how that machine runs and what might be.
What, if this is the village's own machine, and what does it do exactly?
Well, ideally, we would find maybe a partnership. So the company was saying that what really works well is if they can partner with, nonprofits and, things like that. If the village tries to do every single program, we're gonna fail. And so we really need to identify some community partners for some of these special materials collections.
So, by the way, and I of course left it at home. I think it was in Monday's Tribune, there was an article about difficult to recycle materials. And did you notice that there's a picture of this blue thing, that was the styrofoam,
Oh.
foam, that was loose foam.
Oh, great,
thing.
okay.
So basically this company, markets equipment that take, lack of a better term, styrofoam and densify it into blocks. And then they can help purchase those and make sure they get recycled. I know one of the largest uses of that is to make picture frames. There's other uses for it. And sort of a self-contained collection system, and then you put the machine that makes this blocks.
So do they do both, like food container styrofoam and packaging?
Generally, they want clean material, so it'd be packaging.
Because I know that, so either Wilmette or Winnetka does styrofoam packaging, and they accept the food packaging, but I know Apt only does the
Packaging. Right.
Yeah, the packaging
Right.
stuff.
So there's a lot of ways we can roll this out once we figure out if it's.
Yeah, the one
For us-
interesting thing with food packaging is if a community or state bans the foam, like food packaging, there's less money for grants, opportunities for the foam recycling. But Swank assured me that it hasn't been affecting the packaging styrofoam at all. So even if
Right.
there would be a ban on the food styrofoam packaging, there's still plenty of
Electronics.
electronics, right, like TVs and things like that. To
Right.
run a program.
Yeah, I guess.
What about soft foam? So there's what about soft foam? Because there's like hard foam that comes like around the TV, but then there's the soft stuff.
Part of the problem with that is some of that is polyurethane foam, some of it is polyethylene foam, there's too many different kinds.
Okay, and you can't mix them.
What's that?
You can't.
The most common use for polyurethane foam is underlayment for carpeting, but people are not. The demand has dropped severely because people don't use carpet as much.
Yeah.
Just downstream economy. So there are people who do that, but you need.
But it's,
also that
so it's different though, like it's a different.
totally
This is
different
different, yeah, these are different things.
Yeah.
What is styrofoam or foam made out of?
styrene. This will be styrene with the gas in it, and we'll do that.
So Bob retired for a hot minute and was able to help us out.
There you go.
That's where-
Retired.
Have you
But I have something else too. But anyway, yeah.
Okay.
So So, but it's good though, that there's local, it's not like we have to go to Mississippi to go see it.
Yeah.
We'll have somebody
Yeah, they're just,
doing it to take a look at it.
so they collected, I think, some of the logistics, is foam tends to be big, and so they have to collect enough of it to kind of run, to make it worthwhile to run the machine. So I'm interested in seeing how they work some of that out, and if they're having problems with that.
No. I never know when it's appropriate to send stuff to everybody,
Mhm.
so maybe we could just take the website, like, send it
Yeah.
to everybody,
Yeah,
and then you can see it, and there's video, and
sure.
it's pretty dramatic when you see like containers of foam, and then when it comes, that's down to like 7.
Right.
Cool. No, this is the website.
Oh.
And
Highland Park is fun.
Highland Park is one too.
Highland Park is fun. It's very fun.
Oh, good,
Was
okay.
like somewhere in the south side.
And they do both the food and the garden.
Is this
All
one
together?
that the county needs?
Yeah,
Okay, well,
there's a bin, you can just drop them off.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Dart, through Dart,
and I was actually-
Dart is the company that recycles.
Right.
Any other questions on the accomplishments?
So I wanted to note that the village recently received a grant from ITEP, which is the Illinois, I forget what it is, enhancement program, the transportation enhancement program for the Church Street bike lane. So that's, we got some additional funding. Hopefully it'll actually happen this year. And then we also were asked from the Skokie Bike Network to provide a letter of support for the extension of the Skokie Valley Trail, and we provided a letter of support for that. So hopefully these things will happen. Another couple of notable projects in this area. Lincolnwood got a grant for putting a protected bike lane on Pratt Avenue between McCormick and I think all the way to Niles Center, or at that point it's at Central. And then in addition to the Skokie Church Street, Evanston got a ITEP grant to put in a cycle track on Church Street between Dodge and McCormick. So there's some bike infrastructure projects that are in the works there. That's very promising.
Hey, was also going to just add, I did notice too about, since it kind of fits in with the
Tomorrow. Yeah, I think so.
I didn't want to interrupt. I was just going to say, I did notice that what fits in with the transportation and mobility section, speaking of, since you're talking about the bike, all the bike stuff. Also, and we were talking about in terms of the greenhouse gas emissions in the community, that a lot of it, there's a significant amount that stems obviously from just sort of trips by personal vehicle as well. And I did notice it mentions about the EV charger installation underway at the public parking lot at Oakton and La Crosse near the Oakton CT station. And it says villages exploring possible incentives that could be implemented. I will say where that's concerned also, I think that's probably a couple of years away based on what I've heard. But interestingly, and I don't know if the village would be interested in it or not, I just saw on, of all things, I was watching PBS and there was an episode of This Old House where they talk about EV chargers, which piqued my interest a little bit. And they're talking about now how wireless charging is going to be a thing. And there's actually going to be a product that you can integrate into the concrete. So you can even have snowplows going over it without damaging it. So I think that's going to be making kind of the whole, not that I claim to be an automotive expert or anything, but it seems like I think that might also encourage more electric vehicle adoption. I think the more you can simplify things, the more ubiquitous these things become. So I don't know if you've been looking into that at all or not, but I don't know what the potential for doing that kind of thing is in the future too, like using those new technologies and kind of, but I thought that's worth mentioning.
Yeah, I mean, we have a team working on with the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus right now, and it's just similar to that Soul Smart program where they're working through achieving different accomplishments in different areas for the chargers to achieve like a bronze. We're going for bronze right now. We can't go for gold because our fleet would have to be a certain, like a really high percentage of EV. So we're going for bronze, hopeful to get silver. I would just say there's probably a lot of low-hanging fruit that we have to work on before we look into those things. But, you know, we do have a team that's actively attending and getting updates on EV charging. The Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus EV Readiness Program.
Is it like a one and done? Like if you somehow figure out that you can, you know, achieve gold later, like can you go back and achieve that? Or
Yeah.
because like lead is usually like you're done committing level.
Oh, really? Yeah. No, I think you can level up anytime.
That's cool.
What can you tell us about the Grow Skokie?
Not much. So that's the beauty of this is it's grown, you know, I would say there's kind of this almost synergistic effect that's been happening with the plan, and I don't know everything anymore. So if you have any, that's what I was gonna say too. If you have any questions on anything, you can always email me. I can put you in touch with that liaison that knows more about that part.
I have nothing further.
I do.
Yes, sir.
It's just again, stuff comes my way. I was at a plastic industry meeting and sat with a guy who is a plastic molder culture. And he is now making a water filtration system using nanotechnology, Israeli technology that can filter out microplastics, PFAS, all kinds of bad stuff. So it's the whole pitch in marketing is to just for individuals to be able to purchase these. So I'm just learning about it. The flyer I got says it's 80 cents a day. So what costs money is replacing the filter. So should I research this more? How should I do that? I sent the flyer to you, but now I realize there's more to it than just what was in the flyer.
Yeah.
So I
why don't you email me and I'm gonna put you in touch with the staff lead for water quality.
No, I'm gonna talk to them and find out more. Again, if they have a PowerPoint, if they have something that we can look at, then that would be, I think, the way to go. You know, on the one hand, I don't really want to steer residents into water is not safe. On the other hand, there's been a lot lately about that, just that there's everything from pharmaceuticals in your water to plastics to all kinds of stuff in water, no matter what we do, you know, as a village. So I'll do that. So I'll email you, I'll get more information. And then what is the protocol? Can I send stuff to everyone or should I just hold stuff?
I think for anything related to the plan, has anybody heard from their staff liaison? We did ask staff liaisons to email. Nobody's heard from them? Okay.
Actually, we'll sort out. Okay.
I don't know who my staff liaison
I
is.
did.
You or me?
Yes.
I figured.
Hi.
I've heard from you.
We were supposed to reach out and say hi.
We've officially discussed.
Sounds like she did.
Yeah.
Sounds like you're.
It was implied. I figured I'd do it.
I assume so.
Yeah, but that's a great question. So what I'm gonna do is give everybody a list of, or maybe I'll reach out individually, give you like your contact for your you know, your sector.
Can you send it to everyone just in case
That
there's
is, that is
something
Yeah.
right.
people
Yeah.
wanna work on
Okay.
that's not their sector?
Mhm.
Like, I would like to know. like,
Yeah.
just one local food.
And I'm gonna ask, we've got a meeting on Friday, so I'm just to remind everybody to then, you know, also just introduce themselves and reach out to their commissioners too. Yeah. Mhm. Okay. I did have one other thing, just a reminder, the Chicago River Cleanup Day, it's an annual event. I know Jim went last year, I feel like somebody else went from SEAC. Huge event, they really do the whole river and its tributaries, and so it's May 13th. You can sign up online, the meetup is Greenleaf and McCormick, and it's essentially a litter pickup, but I think you actually went down close to the water and
Yeah, you go over to that.
speaking of microplastics, I think that's what you end up picking up, because you pick
Well,
up tiny little
they're micro and macro.
micro and macro plastics. So please, if you can, sign up to volunteer for that event.
Hey Liz, I was with Go Green Skokie and we were picking up garbage around Emily Oaks, and we saw quite a bit of a garbage, a lot of debris near the trail there at what was the street? It was right near Oakton Community College and where it goes by the trail. There's near Tecumseh Park, there's a strip there where there's like a little area where there's a parking lot, and there was quite a bit of debris and garbage. I don't know, it was a little bit more than we were willing to tackle in our informal kind of pickup thing. But I don't know if there's an opportunity to do another pickup, but it's I think there's a gas line there. I don't know if that's people's gas property or whether that's a village property or what.
You're basically talking about those two, like the entry points.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was one where there's a village parking lot. It's a municipal parking lot. I don't know what it's for. Yeah. And behind there, it clearly is a draw for the conclusion I came to was that it's a draw for people to hang out and just do some drinking and whatever, hanging out. And they throw a lot of their garbage in that area there.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely a staff lot, so we can, or a staff managed lot, so we can.
Okay.
Next meeting?
Oh, yeah. No public comments. 1, 2, 3, 4, May 23rd.
Which is the night of that geothermal thing. Yeah.
Can we move our meeting? Yeah, we do the 30th.
Wait, what's on that?
The geothermal presentation,
Oh,
I
yeah.
would like to go.
I would like to go as well.
What do you think? So the discussion here, if you can't hear, is to move the meeting to May 30th to allow anybody interested in the geothermal to go to that presentation. Because our meeting conflicts with the library one.
I'm good with that.
Is anybody not good with it?
That's called.
Is it?
You may have to dial it in.
The date we are given for the meeting.
May 3rd. All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Well, I was gonna say one thing, I know a lot of people, I sent the link to the information for the presentation I did last week. If there's
Yeah.
anyone who wants a copy of the recording or the PowerPoint and stuff and all the information, let me know, and I'll send it out. I also can give you the one I did on EVs. Please, I'm showing down the recordings, they switched me on computers and stuff, so I didn't have the screen when I was reading from, so I apologize for the recording. But there's the PowerPoint and everything, has plenty of stuff about the tax rebates and things, so.
Well, thank you.
I have a question. Is there any interest in any kind of, on the next meeting, of just an update on some proposed federal legislation that relates to recycling and sustainability?
Yes.
So I could probably do
Yeah.
some
I have a swank summary too, if you want, we can.
Why don't you share that with me?
Yeah,
And
okay.
then the Senate just introduced 2 bills, one for recycling infrastructure. And it deals with increasing access to recycling resources for more rural areas. But the other one, the one I'm most excited about is the asset is just the data collection. Providing money to simulate data, so you can make public policy based on data instead of like, this is bad, that's bad, that's bad, that's bad. So, but there's other stuff going on, so that's of interest. In fact, if the SWAC person wants to, I mean, I'm all, however you want to do it. I think it's just
Oh, I
useful
mean,
to know
I've got their,
what's been proposed, what's been discussed.
yeah, I just have a summary, I mean, it's a nice
Right. I can
summary of
summarize too.
everything, so. I think, I think you're just more familiar with the industry and then especially the recycling legislation that's out there, sometimes what I struggle with, and maybe other people do too, you read something and it sounds really good, and then I talk to you and you know some of the,
The
like,
repercussions, like.
yeah,
the
the unintended consequences of some of this stuff,
Yeah,
and so, that's where I struggle a little bit of, with
Right, but I guess what I'm
Yeah.
trying to talk about is stuff that actually applies to what we do here,
Mhm.
not necessarily just in the world. The data one is important.
Okay.
So, they're all bipartisan, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
They're just stuck in a morass of Washington. So,
If you're, or when you provide that, can you provide context? Like, can you sort of like provide, like, do recycling 101 along with it, right? Like, for us lay people who don't know, do you know what I mean? Like, if you're gonna,
Yeah, I
if you're
mean-
gonna talk about it, like, can you put it in context so that maybe quick context, but like,
Sure.
you know what I mean? Like, so that, yeah, to understand like what like how this is helpful and where the gap is and what it's gonna address
Okay.
and why that's, I mean, like I said, quickly, it would be fun, but like,
I mean, Bob, I would say one thing that you mentioned with me with the EPR stuff, there's a lot of
Mhm.
legislation on this EPR. And it's like, well, who gets the funding is, and then you start talking about, chemical recycling. There's just like so many pieces that we don't understand.
Yeah, but I think just as, again, as a commission,
Yeah,
you probably should all know what EPR is, and
yeah,
maybe it's one, I can talk about that, but there's no proposed EPR legislation in Illinois yet. But some of the federal stuff never is discussed locally, but could have an impact on us locally in a
Yeah.
positive way, particularly the data one. But some of those stuff, like national auto bills, they're never gonna pass. Even though the data supports that they're probably a good idea.
Bob, I know there was an extended producer responsibility bill in the Illinois House and Senate. Do you know where that went?
I know it was, so it was delayed, particularly around the Madigan transition, and then there was, I thought it was, actually was very optimistic that it was gonna pass, right, it's attraction, and then it was pulled back.
Yeah, it seems to be just kind of abandoned. That was my impression.
Yeah, I think the issue was, it was an election year, and it was perceived as a tax.
Yeah.
When we passed the taxes in the election year. So
Yeah.
now we're past the midterm, so I don't know if it'll revive.
I mean, one thing that's really close to passing, I think it might have even passed and it's gonna be implemented this year, is medications recycling. And so, you're gonna see some changes there towards the end of the year, where that's essentially EPR. I believe the pharmaceutical companies are gonna be required to, to do some of the medications, and so we're gonna be seeing changes with our program here and not having to pay for that program through Swank and things like that, but we're just not sure what that looks like yet. If a Walgreens or CVS is gonna, take that responsibility of collecting that, or what, we just don't know those things yet, but, expect some changes with medications recycling.
I was gonna say, that's kind of interesting because I remember looking into this back in literally about 2012. I think, and actually, that's back when Deborah Shore was on the commission as well. And I sort of was looking into the whole issue of pharmaceuticals and pharmaceuticals potentially, obviously there's a potential for it to get into waterways if it's disposed of improperly, et cetera. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with that then.
All right.
Did we get a motion to adjourn?
You're the second.
Second.
Go. All right, we are adjourned. Just waiting for a moment.
Good work, everybody. Thank you.
Thank
you.
you.